Hi, John with eTrailer. Today we're taking a look at the Redarc in-vehicle battery charger in conjunction with the BCDC wiring kit that's available here at eTrailer. This is going in on our 2017 Chevrolet Silverado 2500. So this is how we installed the charger on our Silverado today. This system is great for charging an auxiliary battery that you have. It can take multiple inputs. This can even regulate solar panels. If you wanted to do like a solar panel roof on this thing, it'll charge that. It can charge from your vehicle alternator. It isolates the auxiliary battery, meaning you can power equipment or a cooler in the back or LED lighting in your truck, and you can run this battery down. And you'll still be able to start your truck because it isolated the starting and charging battery from your auxiliary battery. I do like the LED display on top here. It lets you know what charge profile you have. Basically, we can explain that later as well. It depends on what battery type you have as to what the maximum charging voltage level would be. So in our instance, it's flashing A. That's the charging profile that we have set up. Also, it lets you know the charge status here, whether it's solar, or vehicle, and what stage it is. This unit will choose solar over anything else first, as long as it has it. Say if it gets cloudy or dark and it's not getting enough from the solar, it will go in conjunction with the battery to power whatever equipment you have. So it is nice that it uses green energy first, and then it steps it down from there. So just as an example right now, the vehicle is off, and we do have a freezer-fridge combo that's running off of our auxiliary battery in the back of the truck right now. Now it's isolated from our starting and charging battery. If we go to start our vehicle, you'll see the LED status light up, and we'll know that the vehicle is now charging the auxiliary battery. The charger has sensed vehicle voltage coming in, and now it's taking this opportunity to charge our auxiliary power source. So you may notice in our video, we've been using different battery types. We started the video with a sealed lead acid battery. This is an AGM or absorbed glass mat battery. That's one nice thing about the charger. It can do different types of batteries, including the LiPo4s. So what I like about these two kits, the charger and then the under hood vehicle wiring here, is that it kind of brings like motorhome stuff to the pickup truck market. Like, you can take this truck to a off the grid camping site, and you're able to power whatever you want with with solar panels. If you got a refrigerator, freezer, you're not running for ice, you're not doing stuff like that. You can power basically whatever you want. This kit is really open-ended. We kept it kind of simple with the pickup, but there's so many different things you can do with the accessories out there that are available. So this is how we installed this on our truck. It installed fairly easily. I mean, it was kind of a new and different process, and your truck may be a little different, but if you want to see how we did this and how we hooked it up and how we're powering our refrigerator freezer in the back, stick around. So before we get the install started, we need to kind of set some stuff up here. Like, will this kit work for you? How is it going to work for you? Our truck today has a 6-liter gas motor in it, which means it only has one battery over on the passenger side. So we already have a spot. These Chevy trucks are designed to have a second battery if you get a Duramax option, the diesel option. So in this instance, we have another battery that we have put in here that we're going to be charging with our Redarc unit. Now, if you have a diesel, if you did get the Duramax, you're already going to have another battery up here that's tied in with your starting and charging system. So this won't necessarily work for you. You may be looking at locating both the Redarc unit and your battery banks either in the cab of your truck or the bed of your truck. Now, another thing to keep in mind is this unit needs to be as close as possible to your auxiliary battery or your battery bank. It's just going to work better that way. So keep that in mind. In this instance here, we're going to be installing this under the hood. This is rated for a harsh environment like this, under the hood, Now, if you have your batteries either in the cabin or the back, or if you're looking at this for a motorhome application, just that's something to keep in mind. This unit needs to stay with your auxiliary battery banks as close as possible. Now, as far as installing the charger, we do highly recommend getting one of the wiring kits from Redarc. We found for the Silverado here, the number 2 kit, the underhood wiring kit, is going to work the best for us. These are for applications where your batteries are more than 2 feet apart, but less than 11 feet apart, and typically in different locations in the engine bays, like opposite corners, like ours here. These kit come with 6-gauge wire, plenty of wire to do all of your connections. It comes with fuse blocks, with mounting blocks, fuses. Everything you need to install one of these under the hood is going to be the right gauge wire, so you don't have any problems. Now, when you're choosing auxiliary batteries for under your hood, if I didn't mention it already, remember that you can use just about anything, just don't use a lithium polymer battery or a LiPo 4. They're not rated for under the hood. It's just too hot for them under here, but you can go ahead with lead acid batteries, with AGM batteries, every other battery that's typically found in an automotive setting like this. We're looking around the engine bay trying to find a decent spot to where it's not going to pick up a lot of heat or vibration or dirt, and it's still close to our auxiliary battery. So I was looking at these cables here and went ahead and took them loose with a trim panel tool, and then opened up this line on this fender well here. And I think what we're going to do, we'll end up mounting it over here. This way we'll be able to route the wires down and away from the hood hinge. You can still have access to the fuse panel here. So overall, I think this is going to be the location we're looking for. So I'm going to get this mounted, and we'll show you what we did here. So we ended up just using a couple of self-tapping screws, and we mounted it vertically here right next to the battery. We were able to still have a little bit of room, even though this is a huge battery for this battery tray here. And this will enable us to, when we run our wires, we still haven't quite decided if we're going to be running them out here or if we're going to turn them back up against the firewall yet, but we just want to at least show you the location of the charger. Now we can begin running some wires. We're back over here on the passenger side where the factory battery is. And if we take this panel off, you're going to see some lugs that we can tie into for power. The kit's going to come with a lead, with a fuse holder, and this fuse holder, and these are all included with the kit. It takes these fuses here. These are MIDI fuses. Where they just go across here. We're not going to install these yet. We'll do this at the very last minute. So for right now, you can see the 2 different sizes. This will attach to the battery side, and this side attaches to the fuse holder side. And then on the other side of that is going to be the supplied wire, the red wire. And this is going to run across the engine compartment and then over to the power block on the other side that we haven't mounted yet. We're going to do that a little bit later. I'll start with the fuse holder, and these nuts are 5/16. And then later on, when we're finished with this connection, we'll actually place the fuse on top of the 2 leads and then tighten down everything. But like I said, for right now, we're just mocking it up. And since this is going to be hot with the battery right now, I'm going to cover it. And then on these lugs, you can go on one that's already occupied, or like this one's empty, but GM doesn't supply the nuts to go on there. You could, in theory, just add your own right here. Since we have this one here already tapped in, we're going to go ahead and use that. Now in this kit, this wire, your different wires are going to be color coded, and we are going to take the red wire. This is the wire that comes over to our, what is now the starting and charging battery. And I'm going to route this along the firewall. I'm going to thread it through the firewall over to the other side. So I'm going to do that now, and we'll show you what I've done. So you can see that we ran our power wire, and it's just hanging loose right now. We'll go ahead and clean this up once it's fully installed, but we ran it along the firewall, and I have it in a coil right here. We will be tying this in to our terminal block. One thing to keep in mind is that we're going to have quite a few wires coming in and out of this. They're going to be coming in from the sides and exiting the sides. So we need to watch how we mount this in what orientation. Obviously this wouldn't be good for us here because of the hood closing. We have moving parts here with the hood hinge. The nice thing is the kit does come with plenty of wire, as you can see. So finding a spot for this that's going to work for us and be accessible if we ever have to come back in here or for maintenance or anything. Now let's turn our attention to the 6-gauge wires that are coming from our charger here. Okay, now these are color coded. This yellow is going to be for solar. We won't be using this in our application here, so I'll end up cutting this and capping it off. But it's nice to have in the future if we decide to add solar panels to the roof of our Sierra here. But we ran the red wire over, and that came from our starting and charging battery. And so we'll take our power distribution block. We're going to end up mounting the block down here. It's going to be below the hood hinge, so it'll be out of the way. And it really is, this is a 4mm hex head. This is really as simple as just matching up your colors here. This is coming in from our starting and charging battery. And this set screw, you just tighten it down. I'm just doing it by hand right now. And we'll connect that to the red wire coming from our charger. Now each of these banks are isolated from the next one down and the next one down and so on and so forth. So the other two colors that we're going to be dealing with right now are going to be the black and the brown. The black will be connected to the negative on our auxiliary battery. The brown wire from our charger will be connected to the positive terminal on our auxiliary battery. So we'll go ahead and do this now. Now we're on the inside of the fender well, close up to the firewall. You can see we mounted the power distribution block just using some self-tapping screws, and we've got the wires connected. So we're going to have the power wire coming from our starting and charging battery. We're going to have the power wire coming from our auxiliary battery. That's going to be the brown, and then the black wire will be the ground wire that's coming from our auxiliary battery. Now, one thing to keep in mind with our wiring kit, we have a ground wire for our auxiliary battery, and that goes to the terminal block, and that's for the charger. But one thing the kit doesn't have is a ground wire, like a chassis ground wire, and that would go from our auxiliary battery negative to a ground on our truck. For some reason with the kit it's not included. They probably due to the fact that they're not quite sure what type of auxiliary battery you would use, and so they don't know what type of terminal top that you would need. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, that when you're buying your auxiliary battery, make sure you also buy a chassis ground cable for it. Now, speaking of auxiliary batteries, this charger can be configured in many different ways for many different battery types. It's all going to depend on how you hook up or don't hook up the green and the orange wire. In our instance, on this application, we have a sealed lead acid battery, and so we're going to set our charging voltage, the maximum charging voltage, to 14.6. That's the most common under the hood application. This is going to be consistent with the manufacturer's setup for the starting and charging battery. So if you have, say, an AGM or a different style of battery, you can find the maximum voltage in the literature that comes with your battery, and then you'll be able to set the maximum charging to the specifications. It tells you how in the instruction manual for this charger. And that will bring us to the blue wire hookup for the charger. If you have a standard alternator, the blue wire is not going to be used. Now, if you have a variable voltage alternator, then the blue wire needs to be hooked up to an ignition on source. And we're going to go ahead and show you what we did here in the fuse box to find that source. One quick way to be able to tell that if you have a variable voltage on these Chevy trucks. If you come over to the passenger side of the truck, you will see your battery cables coming down, and there is a sensor right here. It looks like a circle, and this is a wireless ammeter sensor. And if you have this on your truck, then you have a variable voltage alternator, and you'll have to hook the blue wire up. We are using a mini fuse tap. We have these available on our website, and this is what I'm using today. We also have a micro style, and that's going to be for these smaller fuses here. I chose the mini version today because I am using the 20 amp trailer parking light circuit. We can go ahead and plug that in, and I'll show you with the test light that with the truck off right now, there is no power to that circuit. And that's what we want. And when the key is turned to the on position, we have power. So that's the circuit we're looking for. We have the blue wire hooked up and the fuse is in. Now you'll need to get an extra 20 amp fuse if you're going to use the same circuit I did. The top fuse is going to be for the original circuit, or the bottom fuse, I'm sorry, is for the original circuit. The top fuse will be for the new circuit here. We'll go ahead and plug that in, and we can take our lid. On our lid, you're going to see little cutouts in the front or back. I'm going to run the blue wire out of this cutout right here. This is still going to seal out dirt and moisture, but with the lid, it's going to be easier on the wire to run it out this. And we'll leave the butt connector on the inside of the fuse box. One quick note, if you choose not to tie in at the fuse panel like we did, or if you can't and you need to go somewhere else, the kit does come with a fusible link and wire to hook up your blue wire. So there's plenty here if you need to run it inside the cab or just a different location. The kit does include this. Tighten up our connections on the fuse block with all the wires run. This is a thing where it's just going to be by feel. You don't want to over tighten it, but you don't want it loose. You just want those wires snug. Now with all of our connections secure, we can install the 40 amp MIDI fuse both at the auxiliary battery and at the starting and charging battery. This is a 5/16 wrench. I like to install these upside down, that way you can visually see if the fuse is good or not. That spark that you saw was the circuit on the charger powering up. Totally normal. I'd rather have it spark here than at the connection at the battery. This is why we do it this way. Go ahead and snug these up and repeat the process for the starting and charging side with the other battery. And go ahead and replace your cover. Now, as far as the install on the charger goes, this is pretty much it. This system is going to be all self-contained here. It will monitor our auxiliary battery and keep it charged up for when we use it. Now, what you would like to do with it is going to be up to you. Different applications. Like I said, if you wanted to add solar down the road to charge this unit, to charge this battery when the unit's not running, that's something you can do, and it's easy to tie into. As far as applications for us, we're going to be running a refrigerator in the bed off of this battery. So we're going to kind of overview that. Basically adding a dedicated 12-volt power supply in the bed that can run all night, and you don't have to worry about discharging your starting battery. And in the morning, when you start your truck up, it's going to go ahead and recharge this battery and keep your systems running great. So that's going to be next. So we did just kind of a quick install here with things that we have and offer on our website, like this duplex wire. This is going to be a positive and negative. We hooked this up to our auxiliary battery up in the engine bay, and we ran it back to the bed here. And we used this 12-volt auxiliary power outlet, and we installed this in the bed of the truck flush. And that is powering our freezer refrigerator unit back here. It's also powering our LED lights up there, and it's just one of those things. It's a neat little setup. You could sit here and run this all night, and your truck is still going to start in the morning because the two batteries are isolated. And that was a look at the Redarc in-vehicle battery charger and the BCDC wiring kit on our 2017 Chevrolet Silverado 2500.